Oh, welcome to another edition of A Lot of Help with James Lott Jr. That's with two T's in Lott. Again, that is my name. I'm James Lott Jr., a certified life coach in 5 areas, certified professional organizer, among other things, former nurse, and among other things. And this show has been on for about 3 years. We have almost 200 episodes of the show. And we talk to people from all walks of life that are about health and wellness. That's very important. It's something that I believe in very heavily. We have people on the show who have shown us various ways of battling and handling and managing addiction issues. And so we have another way here, and I'm very excited. They're called the Red Doors, as the organization and everything. So we're going to talk to the founder and the clinical director of this. I'll make sure I say their names correctly. I got Bernadine Fried and Alex Shohet. Hi, guys.
Hi, James.
Hello.
Nice to be on.
Show. Okay, so first of all, welcome to the show, of course. And I want to kind of start off with the fact that I'm going to ask you this question. You both, your lives are dedicated to helping people with addiction issues, correct?
Correct.
So let's talk about that for a second. That's something that before we get into actual particulars of what your programs are and stuff, because I mean, like Bernie, you're a clinical director, you're an LMFT. Alex, you've done entrepreneurship and worked in mental health. So I just want to talk about that. That's very important. Why is mental health very important to both of you guys?
You go first.
You want me to go first?
Sure, Bernie, you go first.
All right. Well, I mean, why don't I just start with I was born and raised in LA. Okay.
That's right, kid. That's right. I get it. Me too. I get it. Me too.
Why don't we start out with growing up as a native Californian and finding my way, growing up in a city like this. I witnessed firsthand, not just in my own family, but just in the culture of the city, was wrought with some values that were really challenging, and so much people that struggled with addiction, depression, mental health, and then there's a lot of, I mean, let's face it, it's Hollywood, right? So you've got like all these personas and ways of being in the world, and people being in pretend mode, and so I saw a lot of tragedy and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of partying.
Girl, I understand that. Yes, me too. Yes.
I mean, I was like sneaking in the Rainbow Bar and Grill when I was like 12 years old. So
I was 13, 14. Yes, I'm going there too.
Probably stood. Yeah, we're probably like
we're probably there together. I'm sure. Probably there together. Yeah.
No doubt. So, I mean, that was the beginning. And I grew up in a family wrought with addiction. The youngest of 4. Sadly, my brother, 3 years older than me, died of a heroin overdose. So I'm very familiar with the perils, and I dedicated my life to it.
You bring up a good point, and we'll get to you, Alex, in a second. You bring up a good point, because I just want to piggyback off of what Bernie just said, because I grew up in LA too. And I was born in a hospital that doesn't exist anymore. I was born at John Wesley Hospital. It's gone. I know it's gone. So my brother and they were born at Cedar Sinai. So they were born there. So we're LA folks. We're LA. I'm totally LA.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I grew up with people where my parents knew actors and musicians. My parents were hippies. I had uncles who lived in Silver Lake, and we go and it's funny when you look back on it now, and all the terms and things you would use, they're almost like endearments to write off what you're seeing. Oh, he's just, oh yeah, he got high, but he's just sleeping it off, whatever. Or he's eccentric. Or she's this, or yeah, he's gonna go smoke some zigzags. Those are the papers, of course. I mean, we didn't know exactly when we were young what that meant. We're going around the corner to see somebody, or see a man about a dog. All these little terms that we use in LA, in that culture in the 70s and 80s. With my older siblings sneaking into Sunset Strip and going to the Rainbow and Whiskey and Madame Wong's West and all these.
Gosh.
Oh, girl!
Rounds.
Yeah, please. I went everywhere. I mean, trust me. And seeing, and I tell people in the 80s when I was going, I mean, there was mounds of Coke everywhere. Just like, please have some Coke and watch a band. I mean, it was just like,
That's what you did.
as you did. It was just
That's
no
what
big
you
deal.
did.
And
And
parents,
smoked angel dust or whatever.
right.
Yeah.
Or take a pill or something. It was somebody hand you something and here you go. And it was also, we kept saying, it's just that time period. You know, we always say that. What's the time period? It's a different time period. I mean, it just doesn't matter. It's like, it wasn't good, but I have all these, when you said that, just brought, I have all these memories of different various people in my life who literally today will be diagnosed with this, that, and that.
Yes, exactly. Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's my point. Like, when you grow up in a culture that's immersed in addiction, and that's part of the music, the people you're around, sitting poolside,
Yes.
eating,
Yes.
drinking, partying, that was the name of the game. And so mental health, you know, if you will, now we have all this like technology for it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe half the people I was with were bipolar or
right.
struggling with this, that. I thought of them as artists that were like really expressive with their
temperamental, very temperamental. That's all. They're just temperamental artists. You're allowed, you know, all those, we used all those words. Those words were like, yeah, they're just temperamental. That's what artists do.
I know, I mean, not a big deal.
No, they're punching holes through walls in front of me, throwing phones at me, but they're just temperamental. It's just, that's what they do. Because they're fine 5 minutes later.
Exactly.
So yeah, I like that. This, I see, Bernie, we're buddies. I can tell everybody's. Now, Alex, I want to hear about your side of how you've come to this yourself too. How did you come to this? You know,
Well, I had a little softer upbringing. I grew up in Garden Grove, Orange County.
Oh, Garden Grove, yes. Okay, yes.
Sublime made it famous, but you know, and I think that, you know, I didn't do too many drugs. I drank when I was a kid, like probably about 16. I started to drink.
Okay.
By the time I got to UCLA, which I was about 19, I was a full-on junkie.
Wow.
So, you know, like I kind of came to LA and sort of stumbled into a whole world that was like kind of a bit of an underground world. And, you know, and I remember the first time I shot up and I thought to myself, oh my God, like this is the greatest thing. I don't know why everybody's not doing it. You know, I mean, that's really how I felt.
Right.
And you know, and I would run around UCLA like telling people, hey, you know what? I'm getting high. Like I'm shooting coke, I'm shooting heroin. This is the greatest thing. And, you know, and like people like friends of Bernie would say to me, shh, you're not allowed to talk like that here. Like that's underground. Like you can't like bring that above ground. And so, you know, I mean, I never made it through UCLA. So
I wonder why.
Gee, what happened? How that worked out for you?
Yeah. But
I met Bernie back then. Like we were throwing parties off the Sunset Strip. I used to live in a house that is right on San Vicente across from the Whiskey.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Underground hangout.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Bernie would come to parties. She'd take over one of the rooms. I'd be in another room, but I knew her because she was like a regular guest. And so, you know, even though we weren't really like, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend or dating back then, I knew who she was.
Yeah.
And she had a reputation of being like me.
How funny is that, right?
I would attract you to her.
I know it's so funny. I remember there were after parties, because I would go party, and they'd be like on Yucca, or they'll be on Sycamore. I mean, they'd be like, you know, they'll be on like right above Hollywood Boulevard. Like we would go to these after parties that come on over and knock 3 times, you know, and see if you love me, that kind of thing. And we get in, and you know, did you bring anything with you? What do you have? Like, what do you know? Everybody was like, I remember all that. It was just like, but it was like you did the whole night. You were just for like 3 or 4 nights, but somehow also went to school. Somehow had a job. Or we had jobs. I worked in the business. I worked at Music Plus Records, and so we'd get all the promo stuff. So you find a job that's kind of in that too, you know. Yeah. So my brothers and I were all in it, and we were just into it all. And they went to the music, and we were latchkey kids anyway. The parents were working and drinking and smoking themselves, finding their way. You know, it's like it was just kind of this whole mix of just everybody was doing their thing, And I look at it now, I go, wow, that was kind of chaos. That was not really,
Well, there was no like there
Parental
was
supervision.
no, none, none.
no cell phones, no tracking.
Nope,
I mean,
right?
I would go off the radar for days at a time. Like there was nobody like looking me up, like figuring out my location or anything
Nope.
like,
Same here. Nope.
so I mean, yeah, so I think like if I look back, like the origin of how I ended up coming full circle and starting to heal and work in mental health, I think my roots, I was already the beginning of wanting to kind of come back and help people in that same situation.
Yeah, I always felt like for me, I mean, it wasn't, I knew I wasn't going to go so far deep. I had plans. I was like, when I was young, I was like, I had plans. I got big plans. So at some point, I left LA and I went to Northern California and started over. And so that's what got me back on the straight and narrow. Okay. Well, first, Cal State Chico was a party town. That was back in the 80s, pioneer days, folks. Just look that up. That was a little crazy at first, but after that, then I started getting settled and I started, and I started having kids and there was a whole thing. So I got together, but I just remember, I mean, I do look back and a lot of it, I do look back on somewhat fond memories.
Oh,
But I don't miss the talks with my mom going, well, the car will drive you home. We're so drunk. Oh, the car will drive us home. They're drinking in the car too. Like back in the day, we had no seatbelts. Remember, no seatbelts in the car. They're drinking and smoking in the car, and yeah, just the car will drive us home. And I'm like, that to me, I'm like, that is terrifying to me now. At this age, completely just have all my wits about me. I'm like, that's not good. That's not good at all.
no.
No.
You're oriented to time and place. That's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's a big deal. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you started the red door. Let's talk about that. So let's talk about how that came together. You guys obviously came together, and then how that come together.
Yeah, you want to go for that one?
Yeah. So I think Bernie and I, because we've had Bernie entered recovery in '87. I entered recovery in '88. Our paths took at first a little bit of a detour. She went right into helping people with addictions and studying for her master's and getting her license. I basically became an entrepreneur in the technology field.
Okay.
And then in our 40s, we sort of kind of came back together where I started to see that money alone, like success, all the stuff that, I was doing in tech wasn't quite enough for me to find meaning in my life.
Mm.
And Bernie had been in the career of helping others. And at one point I just thought, like, I'm an entrepreneur. Maybe I could throw my hat into the ring and try to help other people with entrepreneurship. And especially the people that were affected by mental health and addiction. And so, I think that since that point, Bernie and I have been on a journey of trying to really understand how to bring positive outcomes to people that are struggling from a range of disorders. I mean, I think that people misunderstand addiction. They think of it like kind of the word cancer, right? And so if you think about cancer and you actually dig into it, there's liver cancer, there's lung cancer, there's skin cancer.
Right.
They're all different cancers. It's the same with addiction. You can't really look at addiction and say it's just one thing, right? Once you untangle it, there's a lot of things in there. And so I think that, in our society, we want a simple answer, right? And we want people to go into, like, we call it the car wash, right? We want people to, like, we recognize you have a problem, go into the treatment center. The treatment center will, the people with the claws are scrubbing you.
Yes.
Right? And then when you pop out, you're all better. Get back out there, right? You're fixed. Unfortunately, the treatment centers aren't like car washes. In fact, one of the biggest problems in treatment is that the complexity of all the sort of associated illnesses that are sort of bundled into this thing called addiction, what you start to find is that the healing process really could take a year. Like, and what happens is people say, oh, well, I just stopped, or, can't you just stop? And like, you hear that, and yes, some people can.
Right.
But on a spectrum, what you would see is that the people that just stop are on the lower level of the disorder. And then as you go up the disorder higher and higher, what you're starting to see is people that are so difficult to help. And so, Bernie and I said, like psychotherapy may help the people with, a lower level of the condition, or going to Betty Ford and just doing 30 days or 60 days and they come out and they never use again. Like, God bless them. You're probably in the below moderate level of addiction. And, but when you get up there, what starts to happen is the solutions aren't there for you. And so what we tried to do with the Red Door is figure out how to make it better.
And, well, when you're saying something that I hope I'm correct in this, I feel like I always thought there is no one size fits all anyway, because there's no one size of addiction, right? Isn't the actual act of the shooting up, the act of taking the drug or the drinking or the shopping or sex, isn't that just the base level of what's really going on?
Yeah, well, like we call it a maladaptive coping mechanism. I mean, I'm not a clinician, so I learn. Right, she teaches me everything, and I just parrot.
But it's funny. But I'm thinking that's what it is. I'm thinking that like those are, like you said, you have to unwrap it. That's just the byproduct of whatever the traumas are, right? I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
Right. So so it's really been, I think, at this point established. I mean, look, I've been licensed since '98. I'm coming on 34 years. So wow. I can honestly say that at the root, often and more times than not, when you've got a high acuity addiction, that means somebody that really struggles and can't get sober. Usually at the root of it is trauma, right? I mean, we've heard like Gabor Mate and some of Peter Levine, some of the main people.
Yeah.
We know that at the root of it is often trauma. So you have to really approach addiction from a multidisciplinary approach, not like I'm a hammer and everything's a nail, right? So the idea of how, like, what I really like to learn is who is the person, because oftentimes when people go into treatment, they just get compliant, right? So they hold their breath until that thing's over with, and then they get back to themselves. And that means like, thank you, that was really great, you're really helpful. Now I'm gonna get back to what I normally do. What we try and do at the Red Door, and I believe as a therapist and in life, is I actually wanna get under that and see the authentic person. The only way I'm gonna do that is not to get like super punitive and get them to do my way or the highway. That doesn't work. Because guess what? I can do that all day. I mean, I am like a really sophisticated manipulator. I can tell you exactly what you want to hear. I could do that for 30, 60, 90, even maybe, 6 months, depending on what you need. But what I really want to do is I really want to be able to treat the underlying driver, right? The trauma.
Yes.
And in order to do that, that requires a longer period of time for me to really be able to know what I'm actually treating.
Yeah.
So on the outside, sometimes people look at our model and are like, oh my goodness, like you're so permissive, like what do you mean? Like
you're enablers.
You're like, you let the person's like,
they have a relationship.
Like
they're actually having a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, same sex, but they're doing that under your roof.
Like we're letting them visit or have like overnights with people or, but the point is like, well, that's what happens in life.
I get it. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. It's in vivo. Like, I don't know how else I'm going to actually know what we're dealing with unless I let the person be the person.
Right. And
got it.
And so the kicker is this, right? So let's pretend that the trauma is based on family relationships. Okay. But yet in your first 30 days, you're not really dealing with your family. And then the treatment center goes away and you're sort of moving back in with your family. But the real trigger for the trauma was your family.
Right.
Right. So you weren't really there for the client if the treatment doesn't extend into their lives. Right. And the other unfortunate thing that makes this complex is impulse control. Unfortunately, one of the damaging parts of this addiction stuff is the impulse control centers of your brain. So where normal people can say, I'm just going to go to bed early. I'm not going to have a drink. I might have a little bit of a hangover tomorrow. So I'm just going to cut it off right now. People who are like us, their impulse control centers are damaged.
Yeah.
And the healing of that takes place, but it takes place over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So if you don't have impulse control at 9 months or 10 months or 11 months, then what's happening is people are judging the treatment as ineffective. But really what you're seeing is a brain that hasn't quite healed yet. And so if you design your treatment centers not to stay connected for a long period of time, then you're doing the people a disservice. So the real key is, how do you stay connected over a long enough period of time for all this work to actually build roots that they have the resiliency to walk through their traumas, that they have the coping skills to have healthy relationships, or at least know how to set boundaries if they have unhealthy relationships. How do you get them so that they can work successfully and not be triggered when they get their first paycheck? So, what we're trying to do is look at them as whole people and have a relationship around all of those areas. And, we call them the 12 dimensions of human.
Okay, before you get to that, so I want to stop right there a second.
Okay.
It sounds like to me, for my folks, I want everybody to get this as we go. This is good. It sounds like to me in my organizing practice, I tell people it took you 30 years to get cluttered. It's not going to take you three months to be done.
Exactly.
Right. So and also I'm like, we could throw everything away. That does not help the problem at all. So I explained to them. So what I'm saying with hearing from you guys is kind of the same thing, meeting them where they're at.
Mm.
Okay, make sure I got that. Okay, so now I go ahead next, Bernie.
That's exactly right.
That's what I figure. So you're meeting them where they're at, and actually their most authentic self. Actually,
yes.
Interesting.
You've got it, because at the end of the day, if I'm not working with authenticity, because let's face it, they're super defended, right? And if I've got somebody who's been in treatment 5, 10, 15 times, they know the rap. They got that down.
Yeah.
They know how to work me like, no one's business. And that's not helpful. They're in pretend mode.
Yes.
I got to get in there, right? And so in order to get the safety for them to be able to heal and actually what I call second order change, I have to be able to create safety. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
So we create an environment that they're able to feel safe enough to be them.
So now the place is called Wonderland, right?
No, that was our old one.
That was the last one.
So what's your is Red Door the new one? Is that
Red Door? Yeah. Red Door Life.
Oh yeah,
I'm saying both places literally that's what you're trying to do, is a place, a safe place to land, to be in, be themselves. So if they're dating somebody, they get to come up. In other treatments, like you can't date the first year, all these different rules.
Right.
But you're saying if you went, you gotta go to work and stressed out, I want to be there when you're stressed out.
Yes.
I want to be there. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So then the idea fundamentally, and Alex kind of alluded to it, is we have what we call the 12 dimensions.
Okay.
So that we have all the areas that because there's a team. Look, it's a village. Okay.
Oh yeah.
It's not easy to do. A lot of people say they do this.
Yeah.
This requires a tremendous amount of heavy lifting on our
end.
In other words, each client gets assigned a team of people. This is a multidisciplinary approach. So that when we go through the 12 dimensions, we're looking at legal, medical, physical, spiritual, like we're looking at social, family. We've got, so we're going through each of the areas of this person's life. And then from there, we do our treatment planning, because we have to figure out, what does this person need?
Right, but we do our treatment planning with the client.
With the client in the room.
Like when I first entered this industry at Wonderland, and I walked into Wonderland, it was the first program we started, And I looked around and there were all these clinicians sitting in a room together and they were like talking about the clients. And I was like an observer. I'm an outsider. I'm not a clinician. And I look at all these clinicians and I like listen to them and they're all like debating and discussing each person's treatment plan. And then I would watch, you know, what we call a client advocate. In other mental health places, they call them social workers or counselors. But, you know, that person would go out with all good intention. They'd take the treatment plan that was discussed by all these doctors and therapists, really professionally done treatment plan. And they go to the client and they'd say, here's your treatment plan. And the client says, I'm not doing this. And so if the client's not doing it, then all of that stuff that we just spent talking about throws it out the window.
But it's also like, where is the client? My point is, being pathologized, that is the model of psychology, the DSM, the way you pathologize humans by looking at them through the lens that they're sick humans. Already you're out of the game. So having a bunch of people sitting around talking about you when you're not in the room, you're a grown up. You got kids even maybe. You got a car.
You're like a lawyer, doctor, engineer, you know, tech entrepreneur. It doesn't matter.
You're like in there talking about me. That's like insulting.
Well, you know, here's the thing. When you guys say that to me, when you put it that way, it feels like I'm already hiding all this shame and guilt and trauma. And now you're adding onto it by when you walk in going, I'm going to fix you because you are bad and because you are sick and because you have trauma. It's like, wait a minute, that's not good. I mean, so we're going to constantly judge you while we're trying to help you.
Right.
Got it. Okay, I'm following along, folks. I'm following along. It makes no sense. Now, I mean, it just makes no sense to me.
So what we do is we get a team of professionals, psychiatrists, psychotherapists, this person we call client advocate, and we sit with the client each week, that team.
They're included in it.
Yeah, and the client leads that team. The client does. Those people are the client's advisors.
I like that.
And what happens over time is that they get good counsel. That what's happening with the client is the client's learning to trust that these people see them, they know who they are, and what they're trying to do is offer suggestions that they either will or will not take, but that they're learning together. And the client is going out there and sometimes making mistakes and sometimes nailing it and coming back, but there's transparency in the relationship because nobody's being judged, nobody's being punished. Like, we're not here to like say, oh, well, you know what? You went out with the girl and I told you not to go out with the girl. That was a mistake. Now you're not going to get your phone, your car. Like, you're not going to get to see any girls. We're going to, you know, lock you in this little box.
Yes.
Right? All you're going to do is not tell us the next time you're going to see your girl.
Exactly.
Go on.
So but now you guys know, and some members of the community may think this is very controversial. I'm not sure. What the F are you doing? And we got to take control of them to make them better and not give them choice. Like, what? Give grown folks choice. That's what so what do you say to the critics that say that?
Well, you know, with all due respect, critic,
of course,
what I would say is, first and foremost, I have respect for humanity, and I believe in people's greatest good. I believe we're wired to be really smart, intelligent humans. And I lead from that place. You know, I don't care that somebody is an addict or an alcoholic. And if I really believe that they have an illness or a disease, just like somebody who had cancer or anything else, I treat them with dignity and respect. And that is my fundamental. These are humans with good, solid intention. Like, oh, you know, this whole like, you're a manipulative dope fiend, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, I understand because I was one. Okay. Like, I got you. I understand that. And I'm not going to say like, oh, you know, I'm going to overlook this or that. Like, but I also feel like for the people that want to criticize, like, walk in my shoes, you know? Like, I believe in humanity. And that's what I think at the end of the day is what's important. By the way, I don't know if you're aware of the statistics of how many people overdosed and died of fentanyl last year.
Well, yeah, 100,000 people overdose.
100,000. It's up 23%. Is it 23%?
I don't know, but like
in 1 year. Like, it's not working. That's the point.
You're right.
But I also think that the critics, it's interesting about criticism because, you know, I'm not a clinician, but I've read a lot of stuff by SAMHSA, NIDA, Columbia. There's all these great institutions that basically put out this evidence-based research.
Yeah.
And I don't see anywhere in any of that research that says, you know, take things away, punish them, lock them in a box. Like, it doesn't say that anywhere. It says things should be individualized. Things should be multidisciplinary. Things should be long-term, right? Things should address all the areas of the 12 dimensions. So when I read the evidence, I actually see that it really marries up pretty well to what we do. I just think that somehow in our community, crisis has created control. Now, what you said earlier is, what happens when somebody dies on your watch, right? The first thing we all do naturally is go, oh my God, that was on my watch. I need to control the person so that doesn't happen anymore. I have to watch them 24/7. I have to strip search them. I have to look in every cavity. I have to take everything away from them. Yeah. Unfortunately, you do that one day and the next day they're gone. And so, you know, there's an illusion of control that we don't actually have.
You know, it's funny. Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I've been homeless in my past several times, and I explained to someone because it was funny. We see homeless people, especially in LA. There's homeless people everywhere, right? So I had friends like this one homeless person that always walks in the middle of this traffic at 5 o'clock every day and stops traffic. And why'd I go? But that's the point. They want to be seen. They're a human being. And we walk by them all the time and just judge them as we walk by them. And we're all a step away from being homeless. I had a situation where I had nowhere to live.
I know.
It just, the circumstances happened. I was young and I found my friend's couch eventually and I was able to get back on my feet, but not everybody has that to do. So I said, so that person walking, not using the crosswalk, not waiting for the light to happen, it's almost saying to you, see me, I'm here, I am human.
Yes.
So when you said that, you guys, I said that's what hits me with the addiction. I'm not just the addiction. I'm much more. I'm not just a disorder or this. I'm glad there are a lot of phrases a lot of words have been changed. I remember back when I was a nurse 30 years ago, it was all about the character defects. You would say to somebody, that language is gone. Thank God. There's just like so much language that I'm glad it's evolved since then, because like you guys are saying, it's like these are real people. They have something happened. Some things happened. And we can't be judgy because things happen to us too, all the time. So that made me think of that when you both said that. Made me think of that.
Right. And I think that one of the things about, you know, this idea that, you know, when we go in to help somebody, right, it's their lifestyle and it's their choice, right, of how they want to live their lifestyle. Yes. And what I think a lot of times happens to people we see is that there are some influence on their choices in their lives, like mom, dad, who don't really agree with how they live their life, or, you know, a person who is in a role that has some influence on their lives. And what you start to see is people try to suppress it. And then the addiction just pops up.
Yep.
And it almost like is a way to kind of be who they are.
Yes.
First.
Right. Well, I have friends who told me when they got clean, I started using because my mom got my nerves and I shouldn't use. So I feel like I had no control. So I'll show her,
right,
and I'll do whatever the F I want, but then I'm hurting them later. But that was because they were trying to gain control, receiving control from their parent they felt was controlling.
Right.
They didn't realize that later that would be killing them, basically. going down that direction. And when it got sober, I go, oh, now I get the reason why I started doing this in the first place.
Right, but what you said a few minutes ago to me is just so fundamental, and so how I'm oriented, which is to be seen, right? At the end of the day, I just want you to be able to see me, okay?
Right, same here, exactly.
And that really is for what people are struggling for in addiction and mental health in general. If you look around at what happened with the COVID, pandemic, equally mental health and the epidemic of addiction and opiates.
Yes.
People are not being seen at every single level. And we need to wake up and start seeing one another and start reaching out. I've been Zooming as a therapist, and I've been saying to my clients, please come in, please sit together. We're losing proximity to one another. This is not normal. We need to sit together. We're tribal. We need to feel connected. And when you look at addiction, it's a lack of connection to others. And so having community, and that's something else that we do at the Red Door. And just as a therapist, it's losing our connection to one another, losing our way along the way. It's so important that we feel that. And the disconnection is what fuels addiction. And that's why, hence, self-soothing with opiates, and or anything else for that matter. It could be fill in the blank.
Yeah. I'm a big hugger. And so all my friends and family know that. They say, I give good, I'm big bear hug. I'm a big 6 foot, 28 some pound guy. Love hug. I love hugs. Well, I feel like that brings you close. You feel a person's heart. There you go. But for 3 months last year, we were on lockdown in LA, like literally lockdown. And I have an immune system problem. So I couldn't see anybody. So for 90 days, I documented it online for my fans, but for 90 days, I didn't see anybody.
Oh.
And I broke down day 64.
Oh.
Because I was like, I haven't hugged anybody. I haven't shaken a hand. I live alone. So I didn't, there was nobody. I mean, and so after the 90 days and things started to open up again and we wear the mask and stuff, I hugged my mom for the first time in 3 months. I sobbed like a baby. I mean, like a grown ass man just sobbed. Just like, I'm your mother, come to my bosom. We did that, but I sobbed like a baby because I just was like, I needed that release. I needed that
the oxytocin, the connection.
Yes, exactly. And I think, but all my friends are some of these virtual hug things. I was like, James, hang in there, we'll get there. And so now I've been having all these mini reunions over the last year now, where we're all getting together in person finally in little groups. And it's like, oh my God. I mean, even though we see each other online and Zoom to death, like you said, I think I have Zoom, Zoom craziness in my brains all the time now. But when we get in person, it's like these mini reunions. I've seen you and talked to you on the phone, but we haven't seen each other in 4 months. We've seen each other in 6 months. And we're hugging. And it's like, there's like, and my friends who weren't even big huggers before, like now they're hugging even more. It's just, you're right. We instinctually need that touch.
Yeah.
That's simple. We need that touch. So, I mean, maybe I need to go off topic a little bit, but I just like, that's just, you reminded me of that. It's like, that was, and that's where addiction comes. Because if I can't hug, then I'll start eating more, or I'll start drinking more, or taking more pills to soothe myself to not feel the loneliness.
Thank you. The aloneness, and that's what fuels addiction. So undoing the aloneness. And that's what we practice. So however that looks, is what's fundamentally important in helping people feel safe.
Well, one of the things we do at the Red Door, right? If the healing process takes a long time, right? And these are creative, bright, intelligent human beings. What we want to do is we want to engage them. So how do we engage them? Well, what we do is we foster entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
Right. So what we do is when people come in and start working with us, we try to identify what their passions are, what they see themselves doing. And some of them are very successful and other people aren't. but from the outside world, success measured, but
Right, right.
right. But like what we do is then we try to meet with each person and say, if you had, the opportunity, what would you be doing? And then, so right now we're incubating 4 different projects.
Oh, good.
And,
Okay, nice.
and on December 9th, we're having a fundraiser and we're celebrating Bernie's 34th birthday. And
34 years sober.
Yes.
Yeah, that birthday. Got it.
No, I look good. I know.
You look great. Like, girl, you look great. I'm like, okay, girl. I'm like, okay.
Years sober.
Happy birthday to you. I know that's very important. So happy birthday to you. That's good. 34 years. I was like, oh wow, okay. Right. Sorry, yes. But, yeah.
And so one of them is we have this wearable company that's building a wearable to prevent overdose deaths.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's one. It's called Alice, and it's a really bright team of brilliant technology people are huddling in rooms, building this kind of next generation way of identifying people before they overdose. So that's one. The second one is we have this really brilliant artist who started collaborating with different musicians and other kinds of entertainers on these tennis shoes, and they're selling them as NFTs. And so, it's all around this idea of mental fitness. And so a portion goes to a charity, a portion goes to the artist, a portion goes to, the celebrity or the musician. And then the other 2 projects, one is a psychedelic company that's connecting people to professionals working in the industry who can help them with their psychedelic journeys, with their ways of integrating or having a more meaningful experience if they're going that direction. And the last one is a regenerative farm that supports foster kids.
Okay.
And so, I'm so proud of our community because all of those projects are really, really important and really, really, they're so beautifully done.
I could talk to you guys forever. You have to come back on the show again another time because I could talk to you guys forever. You guys are doing such amazing work. I now that I've heard more about it, I totally, I hands down believe in it. I'm like, yes. So folks who are watching this, ingest this, take this all in. I'm gonna have them tell you where they can find them, but I want you guys to really think about what they're saying. And if it applies to you or someone it might be something good for them. Again, one size, I believe it's across the board, one size does not fit all. Whatever treatment you find and it works for you, good. If it truly works for you, find it, do it, good. But also keep an open mind to other ways of doing things, because your mental health is very, very important. Not only to you, but to society, to everybody. We want everybody walking around fully formed human beings that are being themselves. That's what I want. I want everybody contributing, having a good time, laughing, talking, living, loving. You know what I mean? Having, making mistakes and being okay with them, not going to something very, serious. I just want us to live our lives, best ones that we can. And I think you guys are both doing very interesting work. I like it. I'm very impressed. I like it. So tell them where people can find you guys and your programs.
Well, we're on the internet at Red Door, spelled out Red Door, period, or the dot, and then life, LIFE. There's no .com or anything else. It's just reddoor.life.
Got it. Go there, folks. Start out. Bernie Fried and Alex Shohet. You guys are my new friends.
Oh, James. Thank you, James.
I'm here to support you guys. Whatever you guys I can do, press whatever. Here to support. When you have your fundraiser, you need me to put it out and promote it. I can do that.
Oh my gosh,
I love that.
We would love
to my people. I will promote it to everybody, and I'll find you guys. I'm on all social media platforms and everything, so I can do that.
Oh my gosh, what a gift!
And Merry Christmas, James.
Yes, he went. Yes, he went there, and I have my little nutcrackers.
You legit went.
I did, girl. No, I seriously said I'm bringing it early. I don't care. I want the Christmas spirit. I brought it early.
You've got to be having some Christmas cookies cooking in there somewhere. That's
well, you know what's going on. I'm a big crock pot cooker, so I want to start cooking something in the crock pot. I don't know what it is yet, but I want the smell for the whole day. Just sit there,
Oh,
you know, that smell. Oh my God.
I
Like a stew or
love
something. Like a stew or something. I know, or some secrets. I don't know.
Well, we make a mean Sunday dinner. So if you ever want to come up and have Sunday dinner
come to the
with
Red
us,
Door. Yeah, if you're in LA.
Well, one of these Sundays I will come up. Then I will come up one of these Sundays. That'd be fun. Meet you guys. That'd be great.
okay.
If you're local in LA, please
I am.
welcome to our Sunday dinner.
Yeah, I'm in Inglewood.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You're in our hood. I mean, we can make it happen.
Yeah, we can make it happen. And I give you a hug. Everybody know I'm James Lott Jr. Thanks to everybody at the Red Door. You can follow us on all social media platforms. I'm where all James Lott Jr.'s are sold, at James Lott Jr. and all social media platforms. Again, everyone, please have compassion, open minds. But again, have compassion for each other and for yourself. I know that we're hard on ourselves, harder than anybody else can ever be. But learn to forgive yourself and learn to give yourself some slack. It's okay, folks. We all have things going on, and it's okay. And I want you all to not just survive, but to thrive. That's my word. Survival is one thing, but thriving is the best. And we'll see you next time.